What's going on, guys? Ryan here with the Retro Swap Shop. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Nintendo 64 test cartridge. So the test cartridge is an extremely rare piece of Nintendo, more specifically Nintendo 64 history. So this one is actually in my personal collection, and I took it out of the display case just to show you guys during this video and to kind of give you a tutorial of how it works and what its functionality is. So there's not a lot of information online about how many of these were actually produced. There is information stating or claiming that most of them were returned to Nintendo for destruction kind of towards the end of the 1990s and early 2000s. So at the making of this N64 test cart, the price tag was around $500 for service centers and technicians to purchase, and that was kind of to deter people from reselling the actual test cartridge. There's also rumors stated So let's take a look at it kind of overall. So you can see it's shaped like an N64 test cartridge, but there's a couple of oddities on here that you don't normally see. So I'll address the little red light on the front here first. So this would actually illuminate if there was a malfunction with the console controller or controller pack that the technician was testing. Front label looks like the shape of any other N64 game, although it has different graphics, of course. And then down here, it says Rev A, which you probably can't see on camera. But there was two versions. There was a Rev A and a Rev B version of the N64 cart, test cart, and the Rev B is actually even more rare. This is a Rev A. On the top here, you can see a port, and this is actually called a JTAG port that you would plug a ribbon cable into. And the purpose of it on the N64 test cart was so that the cart itself could be updated, or if there was a malfunction, it could be wiped and then reprogrammed. So that's the purpose of that. You don't actually need it for testing N64 consoles and controllers. The sales of these products are kind of all over the board. They've sold for as little as $1,000 and up to almost $7,000 in the recent years. There are very few sales of this online, and it's rare to even find one of these products actually posted online. So we're going to jump in and show you guys a demo of what the test card actually does and its functionality. So let's get into it. So upon turning the N64 on, you get this crazy screen right here, which is actually proper for the N64 test card. A lot of people think it's broken whenever they initially turn it on, but if you let it cycle through the colors, it's actually testing different color ratios on the screen. So once that is completed, then you're going to get a N64 menu that looks a little bit like this. This is the Nintendo 64 diagnostics page. And this image that we see is actually the same one as the sticker on the front of the cartridge, which is kind of just like an oddly shaped CRT TV, which is pretty cool that Nintendo decided to put a little bit extra in there. So upon hitting A on the actual controller, we can see there's a few different options here. Now, one thing that I do want to note is that to switch actually through the menu, you can't use the actual joystick on the N64 controller. You have to use the D-pad. So if you select burn in, it'll actually cycle through all the tests on an endless loop until you actually turn the console off. So the first thing we're going to do is go to audio test, and it's going to automatically go into an RSP test right here. Now if we let it cycle through its different options here, it's actually going to start playing some different tones to test the audio of the N64 itself.
This is your left channel. This is your right channel.
So we can see there that the audio test has completed and it's actually passed. So we are going to continue, and we're going to hit the A button here. And next up, we're going to go to the individual tests tab. Now in here, there's a few other different options. So the first thing we're going to do is going to go to the controller test, and I'm going to kind of display the controller here while I run through this test so you guys can see everything. So here it just wants me to actually test the different buttons on here. And if you look down here in the bottom right hand corner, there is a time limit to this that actually counts down while you're doing this test. So I'm just going to continue to cycle through everything it wants me to. And A button there, along with B button. Now we're going to C buttons. And just cycling through all of the different buttons, making sure that they're functioning properly. L and R, start button here, indicated Z on the back. Now we're going to double press 2 directions of the D-pad at the same exact time, just to test the functionality of that as well. Make sure the axis is in line. And on here, this is the joystick test. So we're going to take joystick and we're going to push all the way up to the tip, see if it goes back to the 0 spot, and it does. All the way to the right, all the way to the left, in just every direction that it will go in. Now what we're going to do is press these 3 buttons simultaneously, and that gives us a controller test pass. A button to continue. Now, we saw the RSP and RDB tests there, so we'll go ahead and skip through those in the audio test, and we'll do the video test itself. So on here is basically just different screens to make sure that it's delivering the video in the right quality. So we hit red screen, obviously it's red. Go to green, green screen. Go to blue is going to give us a blue screen. Carrying on to color bars is just going to show us a screen of color bars. And then moving on to the video patterns is a little bit more in depth. So if we read here, it says when you press the A button, you will see twirling objects with jagged edges. Upon pressing A again, the edges will get smoother. Press the A button once again to proceed to the next test. So it's basically just giving us a walkthrough on how to do it. So there's all of our different twirling shapes of jagged edges. We're going to hit it and it's going to smooth those edges out actually by blurring it, which is a little bit of 1990s technology for you. Moving on to the next test, we can see that test number 2 says when you press the A button, you will see a gyrating triangle. When the background turns white, press the A button once again to proceed to the next test. So we're going to go hit A, wait until the background goes from black to white, and then we will hit the A button to proceed to the next test. And there we go. Video test number 3 states when you press the A button, you will see vertical yellow lines. Upon pressing A again, the lines will break into 4 sections. Press the A button once again to proceed to the next test. Fantastic. All of our yellow vertical lines. Moving on, breaking up into 4 sections. And test number 4, when you press the A button, you will see a colored test pattern. Upon pressing A again, the pattern will become blurry. Press A button once again to proceed to the next test. So here's our pattern here. Press A and it will actually blur or smooth the pattern out. And video test number 5, when you press the A button, you will see a gradient pattern. Upon pressing A again, the pattern will become darker. Moving on to our gradient pattern, when we hit A, the pattern becomes darker. And those are all of our actual video tests here. So we can see interlace right here can be on or off. I prefer to use interlace on. I think it produces a better video quality whenever we do that. So if we go back to the test menu, then we can also do the rumble back test, and we can do rumble on and rumble off. So pretty cool little test cartridge right here. We can go back to the actual main menu. And like I said, if we go to the burn in, it'll just automatically cycle through all of the initial tests that the test card does in an endless cycle until the console is actually turned off.